birthday, which is tomorrow. I'm going to start off with a quote. A system cannot fail those it was never meant to protect. The recent report from the New York State Attorney General exposed what many of us already knew, that Robin Dalton, Meg Kelly, and 30 Springs Police Department colluded in order to violate the fundamental rights of protesters, which are guaranteed by the First Amendment. This revelation is not only a damning indictment of the corruption that currently exists within our local institutions, but reveals a dangerous pattern across the United States in which those in power are working to suppress and criminalize rightful dissent. Since 2020, city officials have engaged in fear-mongering tactics that have undermined the work of Saratoga BLM and caused an irreversible wedge in our community. It is particularly egregious to falsely claim that our organization, whose members and supporters have never been accused of harm, as violent disruptors that pose a threat to our community, all while behind closed doors expressing the desire to violently assault organizers and protesters. Despite the damning evidence presented in the report, there has been no accountability. Many of the key decision makers, actors implicated in these violations have conveniently left their positions, hoping to evade responsibility. However, their departure does not absolve them of their crimes, nor does it erase the trauma and damage inflicted upon those most directly impacted in their actions. While they enjoy the luxury of moving on, joining boards, and starting podcasts, Saratoga BLM and our supporters have been left with the brunt of misplaced backlash as a result of their abuses of power. The extent to which these individuals weaponize power and city resources on surveilling and targeting innocent individuals should alarm all members of the Saratoga Springs community. The surveillance group responsible for stalking and intimidating the then 21-year-old college student simply based on racial discrimination was not only a blatant misuse of taxpayer dollars, but an indictment on the racism embedded in our law enforcement agencies. Instead of allocating resources towards addressing genuine threats to public safety or investing in vital community resources such as public housing, shelters, and social services, our taxpayer dollars are squandered on baseless surveillance and harassment tactics that serve only to perpetuate fear and oppression within marginalized communities. This egregious misuse of funds underscores the urgent need for a comprehensive change within our department and the judicial systems, prioritizing accountability, transparency. It is high time that we reevaluate our priorities and ensure that the public resources are directed towards initiatives that genuinely serve the needs of our communities rather than. Furthermore, the insidious tactics employed by law enforcement extend beyond mere surveillance and false accusations, as evidenced by the appalling actions taken against organizers in the aftermath of the protest, which is under scrutiny. It is deeply disturbing to learn that retired Sergeant Timothy Sicko, reportedly deemed the go-to guy by former Chief Shane Crooks for his unquestioning compliance, was tasked with filing complaints against protesters based on falsified witness statements. This egregious abuse of power once again highlights the pervasive culture of impunity within the Saratoga Springs Police Department. Moreover, the reprehensible act of the former mayor, Meg Kelly, personally enlisting the police department to call Child Protective Services based on nothing more than a desire to intimidate our co-founder, Alexis Figueiredo, was a flagrant abuse of power. The alarming influences wielded by conservative and alt-right unelected political leaders such as Rob Arago also represent a direct threat to the principles of democracy and governance. The fact that these fringe individuals have been near of our elected officials and are actively calling for the arrest of community members based solely on ideological differences is deeply concerning. Elected officials have a duty to represent the interests and voices of their constituents, not bow to the demands of external forces and right-wing extremist groups whose agendas run counter to the well-being of the community that they supposedly serve. It is unacceptable for elected officials to prioritize the desires of these individuals over the legitimate concerns and grievances of countless community members who have taken the time to voice their opposition to the mistreatment of protesters for the last 4 years. By ignoring the voices of the community while bowing to the demands of these figures, Robin Dalton betrayed the trust placed in her by the people of Saratoga Springs and undermined the democratic process. The release of this report, while a crucial step towards accountability and justice, is merely the beginning of a long overdue reckoning with the systemic injustices and abuse of power that have plagued our community for far too long. The revelations contained within this report shed light on a pervasive culture of vilification and persecution that community organizers have endured at the hands of the last 3 administrations. It is deeply troubling that instead of engaging in dialogue and collaboration with those working tirelessly to advocate for the rights and well-being of our community, these administrations choose to demonize and target individuals for speaking truth to power. The fact that Lexus Fideo is now facing trial simply for exercising his First Amendment right to speak at City Council meetings is a glaring example of the lengths to which those in positions of authority will go to silence dissent and intimidate activists. This egregious abuse of the legal system to suppress legitimate forms of protest and advocacy is an affront to the principles of democracy and justice upon which our society is supposedly built upon. It sends a chilling message that speaking out against injustice will not be tolerated and that those who dare challenge the status quo will be met with harsh reprisal. The hope that accompanies the release of this report is tempered by the disheartening reality of ongoing patterns of misconduct and activity within the Saratoga Springs Police Department. Tim Cole's deliberate attempt to control the narrative and downplay the severity of the findings underscores a broader pattern and lack of accountability that plagues the Saratoga Springs city government. However, despite the intimidation and persecution faced by community organizers, Saratoga BLM's resilience and determination remains unwavering. This report serves as an inflection point for our community. It is imperative that we stand in solidarity with those who have been unjustly targeted and marginalized and fight tirelessly for a future where the voices of all members of our community are heard, respected, and valued. This report marks only the beginning of our journey towards justice, but it is clear that it is not the end.
Next, we have Mark Mishler, our lawyer.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Alexis, for that beautiful statement. It's hard for me to add much more to that, but I want to emphasize that the promise of democracy is not just some abstract notion. What it means is that the people who live in a community have actual control and input, and they are listened to, and they are part of the process in a meaningful way, and that their concerns are listened to in a meaningful way, and that they can engage meaningfully. And this is not just some nice idea. This is how this is supposed to work in the city of Saratoga Springs, in Saratoga County, in New York State, and in this country. And betrayals of democracy, such as what happened in the city of Saratoga Springs by the leadership, by the mayor, the commissioner of public safety, the police chief, the assistant police chief, and many, many others. These are not abstract issues. These are real. It affected real people's lives. It caused real harm to real people when democracy, or the promise of democracy, is betrayed as it was. It was betrayed in ways that, while we thought we knew pretty much all the ways that they have betrayed democracy and violated people's rights, we learned some new things. We learned the depth of their depravity in this report, wonderful report from the Attorney General's office. We learned how angry the democratically elected or appointed leaders of the city of Saratoga Springs were. What were they angry about? They were angry that people in Saratoga Springs, black people and others and allies, came together to say that there is a sordid history of racism in Saratoga Springs, and it's time to address it. And for those in power, that was something they just could not accept. Rather than engaging in real dialogue, rather than looking honestly at the history of Saratoga Springs and the reality that's faced by people now, not just history, instead of that, they took every possible conceivable steps, and honestly, some steps that I could never have conceived of, in order to undermine what these activists and what the community was demanding. And so now we're in a position where we have, due to the extraordinary work of the Attorney General's office, a blueprint for exactly what happened, the depth of the betrayal, the depth of the depravity, the depth of the racism that led to that depravity on the part of these officials. And we now know what happened. We knew most of it already, but now we really have it clearly. And it gives us a blueprint for how to move forward. And the blueprint has to be that the city of Saratoga Springs and Saratoga County in New York State can never again tolerate the kind of actions by elected officials and appointed officials as what happened here in Saratoga Springs over the past several years. The blueprint also is that we cannot allow any governmental body in New York State to tolerate or to ignore the depth of racism and the history of racism and the legacy of racism and the current pain caused by existing racism in their communities. That it's important for people to speak out, to organize together, to stand together, and that's what Black Lives Matter in Saratoga has done for the past 3 years. Almost 4 years. Remarkable work by Saratoga BLM during this period and others, and that work will continue because the problems have not been solved. We just have a very clear picture now of exactly how bad the problems were here. So I just want to close by saying it has been and continues to be a great honor to represent many of the members of Saratoga BLM. As a sort of older person with gray hair, I feel I can say that this is inspiring, that these people who are all, they're not all young, but they're all younger than me, give me great hope for the future, great hope for what we can all do together as we fight racism, as we fight injustice, and we move together. As Alexis mentioned, there's still one case pending. We've had every single case dismissed, except for one that's still pending. I'm a little constrained is what I can say because I'm a lawyer in a pending case, but you know, it's a ridiculous case, and we're going to keep fighting that, and hopefully we'll end up, Saratoga BLM will end up with a perfect record of 100% of all of the cases brought against them dismissed. That's our goal. So thank you all for being here. TJ, thanks.
Hello everyone, my name is TJ Sangare. I'm the program director here with Saratoga Black Lives Matter. Thank you all for coming out. I have a simple and straightforward message for everyone. As shocking as this report was for many people, the contents of it was of no surprise to my group, nor many of the people who have been involved or followed this movement over the past couple of years. If anything, this damning report exemplifies many of the criticisms that SSPD and the city of Saratoga Springs have faced, not only due to their actions towards us, but also towards the heartbreaking death of Darryl Mountain. Transparency, I see none of it. Accountability, I see none of it. An attempt to bridge the gap between those running the city and the marginalized community members in it, I see none of it. What I do see is a pattern of culture amongst those in power. One where people such as Robin Dalton, Meg Kelly, Crooks, and James Montanino abuse the power that was entrusted to them by their citizens and constituents. But don't think that just because many of these people are out of their positions means that these problems are solved, as these are systemic issues that must be addressed at the root, from top to bottom. And if you don't believe me, look at the current Public Safety Commissioner, Tim Cole, who only waited a few hours to do an interview where he questioned the validity of the report that was published. Let me tell you something, Tim. Now is not the time to justify civil rights violations, nor is it the time to invalidate any of our experiences.
Yep.
Because clearly I wasn't lying when I said I was told I had to drive 3 hours back from college, or else troopers would be sent to Vermont to arrest me and bring me back. Clearly we weren't lying when we said that we would never keep someone from getting their heart medication because everyone's safety is our number one priority. Clearly, we weren't lying when we said that certain city council members had it out for us, as Robin Dalton said in her own words that she wanted to repeatedly punch and kick Chandler Hickenbottom and my cousin Molly Dunn in their faces. No, now is not the time to justify any of that. It's a time for people to listen to those who have been impacted, and it's time to change this culture.
Could you all spell your names for me, the ones that spoke really quickly?
Alexis Brown, Alexus Brown.
TJ Sangare, Sangare.
And then your name, sir?
Mark, M-A-R-K, Mishler, M-I-S-H-L-E-R.
And then I just have one question for you guys. Other than today with this press conference, how are you going to respond to the city as well as the Attorney General?
I mean, for one, we'll be responding to the city with multiple lawsuits, probably a class lawsuit that we'll be filing against the city. As far as Meg Kelly, I'm going to be trying to press charges for making a false report to CPS, which is a violation of our rights, and it is a Class A misdemeanor, as well as Chief Crooks as well, former Chief Crooks. We're going to be pressing charges on him as well. I'm going to be speaking to my lawyer. If it's okay, I may be going down to file a complaint as soon as we get done with this press conference. So we're going to be looking for charges. We're looking for a justification. We're looking for justice. You see, Robin Dalton said she had a bloodlust, right? We have a justice lust. We have a lust for justice. That's what gets me excited. Freedom gets me excited. Equity gets me excited. Diversity makes me excited. That's what I like to hear. So we'll be responding to the Attorney General's office, asking for them to continue to look into the other doings of Saratoga Springs Police Department and the City of Saratoga Springs Police Department, because we know that this is not the end all. We know that it's not the first time they violated rights. We know that they started violating our rights in 2020, and we haven't forgotten. We know that July 30th should be looked into more than what it was. We know that they said that they came with a tank from Iraq, but what else did they do? What were their plans that day? How much money went towards this? The people want to know, and people aren't going to have it. We aren't going to have it anymore, and I think that we've shown time and time again that whether you keep us in cells for 12 hours with no water or food and no medication, and you separate us, give us no mask, you want to rip us in front of our kids, you want to rip us while we're working, you want to come and rip somebody up from college, we still are going to keep on coming. We're going to keep on coming. When the empire strikes back, we come back even harder. Plain and simple. Not a game. This is our lives. I think people need to realize that this is not it's not a joke. This is our livelihoods. Our children had to deal with this. Our family members had to deal with this. We get threats to this day now on our social media's websites and to our phones because of this. And now we have a new public safety commissioner, like you said, Tim Cole. Not any better. Not any better. Not any better. They all come from the same cloth. If you read the report, it says that the Conservative Party leader was involved in a lot of this. These are conservative Republicans. These same people will run our city now. I said it before, the people of Saratoga Springs have been duped, and we will make sure that the people who are elected now will never be reelected in this city again. That's our mission, and that's what we're going to do. Plain and simple.
What about the recommendations that were made? Do they feel right to you? Those recommendations, are they right?
The recommendations feel right. They don't feel strong enough. Also, I want to see criminal charges pressed because they're under the legal part of the legal insert in the report. It clearly said that they violated some legalities. So I'm going to call for the city council and the AG to call for a special prosecutor to come here and look at these charges and get these people locked up. We want justice. The same way that they would lock me up and lock us up quick for speaking too much, we want you locked up for violating rights.
Why should the scope of this go
beyond? We got more speakers. We got more speakers.
Sorry.
Yes. We have Dio representing Capital District ESA coming up to say some words.
Hi. On behalf of the Capital District Democratic Socialists of America, we are happy to finally see the release of the Attorney General's investigation into the violations of the civil rights of Black Lives Matter activists and protesters by the Saratoga Springs Police Department and Saratoga Springs city officials. After almost 3 years of waiting for answers, the report authenticates that Saratoga police and politicians lied to mislead the public about Saratoga BLM and their supporters, and they intentionally deprived them of their civil rights. The 30-page report details repeated calls from the city government and the Saratoga Springs Police Department to arrest BLM activists when protesters demonstrated in the city. Assistant Police Chief Catone threatened to pull out every single connection his family has made over the last 130 years to stop BLM's narrative in response to activists exercising their civil rights. The Attorney General's investigation did not find the protest to be unlawful in any way. The report shows that Saratoga BLM repeatedly complied with police orders during the protests. But despite this, protesters were met with, according to the Attorney General, quote, horse-mounted police, dozens of officers in riot gear, and an armored vehicle designed for combat in Iraq. The report shows that officers from various agencies fired pepper balls, shoved, tackled, arrested, and forcibly dispersed protesters. The results of the Attorney General's investigation dispels the rumor that Saratoga BLM protesters blocked a man from getting heart medication. This rumor was created when the SSPD police chief assigned a sergeant to issue charges on 6 protesters for allegedly stopping a car with a passenger who allegedly needed medication. The charging officer, as Alexis stated earlier, was selected for this job because he was, quote, a go-to guy who would not push against orders. This fabrication led to warrants being issued. Members of the community were arrested based on lies. Alex Patterson was arrested at work. TJ Sangari was pulled from college and arrested. The SSPD published the names of all these individuals doing untold damage to their futures based on a lie coming from the highest power in our city government and the police department. The perpetuation of these accusations have spread throughout our community, damaging the involved groups, publicly named individuals, and the movement as a whole. It's no surprise that after these lies have been shared as truth by elected officials, there have been increased tension in our community, including harassment and threats aimed at the organizers of Saratoga BLM, both inside and outside of city council meetings. The AG's report concluded that SSPD's actions harmed the public. It uncovered that Saratoga Springs had an official policy of retaliating against Saratoga BLM protesters. The SSPD brought charges against protesters based on unsupported evidence, initiated a CPS referral without cause, violated their own policies. SSPD and the city failed to investigate and penalize officer misconduct. So our question is, what stops this from happening again? The police went through training in March of 2021 to learn how to respond to protests. Their tiered approach that they were trained in resulted in the abuse of power on July 14, 2021. The bloodlust for arrest came from the highest levels of the city government and officers with decades of experience. Since 2021, the police budget has continued to steadily increase. Elected officials failed to respond to subpoenas while our community foots their legal bills. Not only has the city refused to implement changes to address the problems in the police force, the retaliatory targeting of activists has continued under consecutive administrations. The Public Safety Commissioner following Dalton, Jim Montanino, went on to charge both Chandler Hickenbottom and Lex Figueroa with crimes for speaking out of turn in city council meetings. The accusations from the previous administration has made Saratoga BLM a convenient scapegoat for Montanino's failure to address police misconduct. The initial response to the AG's report from current Public Safety Commissioner Tim Cole was not one of introspection, but one of deflection. Instead of considering how his administration can be better, he immediately tried to discredit the investigation in the media before the report was published. The Attorney General's report affirms what Saratoga BLM has been telling us for a long time. Instead of discrediting their lived experiences, the city of Saratoga Springs needs to address its legacy of institutionalized racism. We cannot move forward until amends are made and the roots of issues are addressed. The recommendation for remediation listed in the AG's report are a good start, but they don't go far enough. Thank you.
Bear with us, we've been waiting 3 years.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Chandler Hickenbottom, and I want to just start out by saying that I am Saratoga Springs. I would just like to start by saying I'm a lifelong resident of Saratoga Springs. I was born in Saratoga Springs Hospital in April of 1996. I went to preschool at Dorothy Nolan in 2000, Lake Avenue Elementary School from 2001 to 2006. Maple Ave Middle School from 2007 to 2009. Saratoga Springs High School from 2010 to 2014. With that being said, I will never be called a grifter. This is my town. When people ask me why I do the work that I do, I say it's because it's hard. I can go to any city in America and do my activism work. I chose Saratoga Springs because this is my hometown and this is my city. I know if I can make change here, I can make change anywhere. Now, let's start with what happened with this investigation. Robin Dalton sent violent and threatening messages to Shane Crooks, threatening to punch me in the fucking mouth. Those are her words directly. And to kick Molly Dunn repeatedly in the fucking mouth. You think punching me in the mouth is going to shut me up? Baby, Devin Anderson couldn't even do that on Park Street. All it did was make me louder. And I will continue to be louder. Robin Dalton changed her words quickly, saying that her words were out of stress and anger. Yet when I speak too loudly because I'm stressed, I'm angry, I'm sad, my voice is criminalized with disorderly conduct.
Okay.
My yelling scared you. It did? But your threats didn't have the same effect on me. You call us thugs and you say that we are violent. The violent one is you. You are in charge of public safety of this community and you did nothing to keep your community safe. You were caught making direct threats towards community members that you were tasked with protecting. On September 7th, and I apologize because this part may get a little bit emotional for me. On September 7th, I watched my niece and my nephew be traumatized by Saratoga Springs Police Department as they were violently ripped from their mommy, watching her be assaulted and their aunt violently arrested. Never forget my nephew screaming and crying for his mommy. Listening to my mommy cry and scream as she watched her youngest child be arrested in front of her. I was denied medication and placed in a cell for hours without access to food or water. I was accused of being an unfit parent because they assumed that my niece and nephew were my children. On September